Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North. Our top story tonight. 3 men are found guilty at Sheffield Crown Court of planning a far-right terror attack.
They've amassed weapons, they physically have amassed weapons, they've constructed a 3D printed firearm, and we can show that they were trying to identify potential targets.
We'll hear how the online group was infiltrated by an undercover officer. Also tonight, after 3 days of boiling their tap water over bacteria fears, households in parts of North Yorkshire are told it's now safe to drink. And sound familiar? The Yorkshire Orchestra giving classics a classical twist. And we meet the gardener from Hoyland, hoping to bag double gold once again at the Chelsea Flower Show.
And right on cue, there was more cloud around today. That said, it broke up very nicely. We've all seen some sunshine, but what about tomorrow and into the weekend? Join me for the detailed forecast.
Hello there, I hope you had a lovely day. First tonight, a man from Leeds who was the ringleader in an online extreme right-wing group has today been found guilty of planning an act of terrorism along with 2 other men. The trial, which took place at Sheffield Crown Court, heard how ringleader Brogan Stewart was preparing for what he believed to be a race war. The group had amassed more than 200 weapons and discussed targets for attacks. Michelle Lyons reports.
These are just some of the images of a hoard of more than 200 weapons recovered by counter-terrorism police during their investigation into 3 men involved in a far-right plot to attack mosques, Islamic education centres and synagogues. Brogan Stewart, aged 25 from West Yorkshire, Christopher Ringrose, aged 34 from Staffordshire, and Marco Pizzetto, aged 25 from Derbyshire, were arrested last year following an intelligence-led investigation which discovered the men were intent on committing a violent attack.
During an 8-week trial at Sheffield Crown Court, the jury were told how the men had met online and formed a self-styled militant group which provided an echo chamber of extreme right-wing views, and that they'd bonded over their racial prejudice. They'd idolised the Nazi regime and glorified mass killings.
Brogan Stewart from Tingley near Leeds was considered to be the ringleader. Police took photos of his bedroom where a Nazi flag adorned the wall, and the room was littered with weapons.
Undercover officers infiltrated the online group where Brogan Stewart discussed torturing a Muslim leader using an information extraction kit, which included a blowtorch, pliers, gaffer tape, a screwdriver, bleach and a syringe. And video footage shows Christopher Ringrose handling a crossbow and a firearms expert testing a 3D printed gun, which Ringrose had manufactured illegally.
In their defence, they said it was all fantasy and just harmless chat, but the prosecution argued the fact they'd amassed weapons showed they were planning an attack, and a voice memo by Brogan Stewart suggested they'd located a target.
So what I'm thinking, across to the target, then down that street, come back on ourselves to where that roundabout is. We can stop there, we can uncover the plates, we can get rid of masks, and then we can drive off.
Jurors were told by the prosecution the 3 men were arrested after security services believed an attack could be imminent, and today they returned their verdict. All 3 were found guilty of a charge of preparing acts of terrorism and charges of collecting information likely to be useful to a person preparing or committing an act of terrorism. The head of counter-terrorism policing in the North East welcomed the verdict and said such online forums posed a serious threat to society.
The extreme right wing use the online space to radicalise each other excessively online. This group are geographically quite dispersed within the UK. They've never met each other in the real world until they met online. That online space allows them to espouse their views, and is a real concern because these views are then amplified within these echo chambers.
West Yorkshire Police hope this conviction will act as a deterrent to other online militant groups. Michelle Lyons, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
Well, the sentencing of the three men has been listed for the 17th of July. The judge, Mrs Justice Cutts, told them you must all expect substantial custodial sentences. Next tonight, residents in some North Yorkshire villages have been told that they need to boil their water after tests showed it contained high levels of a type of bacteria. Yorkshire Water had issued a boil order for its customers in High Bentham, Low Bentham and Burton in Longsdale. An inconvenience for most, but a huge disruption for others. It's been lifted an hour ago, which is a relief for many residents. Olivia Richwald can tell the story.
Fill the kettle, boil the water, let it cool, and only then is it safe to drink. This is the kind of process you might expect in a third world country, not North Yorkshire.
Hi Christine, I was going to top your water up.
Oh, thank you. Christine has had multiple sclerosis for 25 years and has carers in 5 times a day. Before she became ill, Christine was the community health visitor here in Bentham, and one of the babies she cared for was Danielle.
We're having to do like a rota system, so the morning carer will boil the water for lunch, and then each visit they will prepare the water. With our dementia clients, it's a real problem because it's getting them not to drink it. So we have prepared signs over the taps on the walls to say do not drink the tap water, but it's hard because they don't understand.
It's more about not knowing the cause of it really, and how long it's expected to go on.
And is it worrying you?
It doesn't worry me, no. It's just frustrating.
Yorkshire Water says it was routine testing that detected the bacteria in the water supply, but it says boiling the water makes it perfectly safe to consume. It has, however, been dropping off crates of water to help customers. Just after 5 o'clock this afternoon, Yorkshire Water said its boil water order had been lifted. It was a relief for locals, but this man wonders if the water made him ill.
Well, I've had diarrhoea, and so has my wife, but I don't know what to do with this. I couldn't say it was that, but over the last 24 hours, we've both had diarrhoea, so kind of weird, yeah. I don't normally get that.
At G&Mo's Cafe on the High Street, the kettle has been busier than ever, but staff haven't been complaining.
99% of the time, turn the tap on, water's fine, and there's so many countries where you cannot drink the water, or countries that do not have clean water. Life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
With bottled water?
Of course, and you could always boil it first.
Yorkshire Water has apologised to its customers and thanked them for their patience. And the best news, those taps are safe to use once again. Olivia Richwald, BBC Look North, Bentham.
Well, that is good news. You are watching Wednesday's Look North, had to think then, on tonight's programme. A show based on the real experiences of men in Calderdale has been created to help raise awareness about men's mental health. New plans have been announced by the government today to move thousands of civil service jobs out of London. They'll be moved to cities across the country, including here in Yorkshire. It's all hoped to make the government closer to local communities. Johnny Reid has more.
The majority of the civil service has long called London home, but as part of the government's plan for change, they're now moving some of the roles that help decide the things that affect you to Yorkshire. 12,000 roles at the civil service are being shifted from the capital city to 13 regional offices across the country, including Leeds, Sheffield and York.
We think these will be some of the most exciting places to work. They'll be on the front line of delivering missions, working differently with communities. So we're also hoping that people will want to move out to these places. So it'll be a mix, and it will be bringing government much closer to those communities.
As part of the plans, 50% of senior roles will move to regional offices by 2030. The changes are expected to bring in £729 million to local economies across the country, and the government say the move will save £94 million a year by 2032. But not everybody agrees with the government's plans.
What we don't want is to create roles outside of London, but people have still got to commute down to London because the minister wants to see them, and in effect creating second-class civil service careers for people who are not based in Whitehall. So it's really important that in the implementation of this, we see the benefit for civil servants and for the areas that they'll be working in and with.
The number of civil service roles that will move to our region isn't yet known, but a government source told the BBC that the exact number will be determined by the spending review due next month. Johnny Reid, BBC Look North.
We'll have to see, won't we? We've been enjoying some glorious weather, haven't we, the last few weeks, but the Environment Agency is warning of possible water shortages after the driest start to spring on record. Unless we get a sustained rainfall, the regulator is warning water companies may have to impose hosepipe bans and other restrictions in the months ahead. Tom Ingle is in Chesterfield for us, where the Canal Trust had to cancel cruises due to low water levels in the nearby river.
When it's not raining, every drop of water counts. These leaky locks on the Chesterfield Canal at the Hollingwood hub make for a problem.
As soon as you start operating locks, they use 25,000 gallons each time.
Ordinarily, the water to top up this section of the canal comes from the nearby River Rother, but it too is very low after the hot weather. So much so, the Environment Agency had to temporarily put a stop on drawing water out of it.
Currently there's a medium risk of drought in the summer, but obviously as the dry weather continues, that risk will increase. So it's really important that everybody just thinks about what their water use is and make sure that we're not wasting it. And there's practical things that everybody can do, things like just turning the tap off while you're brushing your teeth. Maybe do you need to wash the car, and if you do, use a bucket. Things like having bowsers to collect rainwater for watering your garden.
For a while, the Canal Trust had to put a stop to their boat trips.
The two boats which are behind me here, at this time of year, normally they'd be taking about £600 to £1,000 a week, which goes towards the restoration of the canal. So obviously that's not happening.
You must be quite unusual. Not many tourist attractions actually rely on a steady stream of rain to have good times.
Yeah, exactly, yes, we are a bit strange like that.
Fortunately, though, the ban on drawing water from the Rother has now been lifted, and pleasure boat trips can depart again from this weekend. A relief to one wedding party who might otherwise have seen their planned charter cruise cancelled. But all here are still watching the skies for some welcome downward drip to keep pace with their locks. Tom Ingle, BBC Look North, Chesterfield.
Let's have a look at some other stories coming into our newsroom now. A man from Halifax charged with sexual assault and rape has been jailed for 18 years. Adil Zafar was arrested and charged after sexually assaulting a woman in June last year. On Friday, the 44-year-old was sentenced at Bradford Crown Court after being found guilty of rape, strangulation and coercive and controlling behaviour. The luxury fashion house Burberry, which has a factory in Castleford, has said it could cut hundreds of jobs to help reduce costs. The proposed plan would reduce the British designer brand's global workforce by almost a fifth. That includes potential redundancies at its Castleford factory, where night shifts would be scrapped. The announcement comes after the company reported a £66 million loss in the last financial year. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has paid tribute to the victims and survivors of the Bradford City fire, which happened 40 years ago this week. Speaking at the start of this week, Prime Minister's questions, he said the community had shown strength in the wake of the disaster, which claimed the lives of 56 football fans.
Mr. Speaker, I know the whole House will also want to mark the 40th anniversary of the Bradford City fire. We remember the victims of that devastating tragedy and celebrate the strength of the community.
Now, if you think classical music isn't your thing, meet the musicians convinced that they can change your mind. Paradox Orchestra perform hip-hop, R&B and rock and pop, among other genres, all given the full orchestral treatment. Their Pink Floyd concert sold out last year, and this year the hope in the music of Fleetwood Mac proves just as popular. The orchestra was formed by musicians from Leeds Conservatoire wanting to do something a little bit different. Kathy Killick has been to see them rehearsing.
It's one of the best-known tracks by Fleetwood Mac, thanks in part to being the theme tune to BBC Formula One coverage, but you've probably not heard it quite like this. The musicians that form Paradox Orchestra all come from the north. Many went to Leeds Conservatoire, and they're on a mission.
We all get some of the rarest instruments together and perform the music of Rihanna and Destiny's Child, and we'll play drum and bass, and we'll play rock music, and we'll use the most ancient symphonic instruments to do that.
Why?
Because it's not being done by anyone else, and it's something new and it's fresh. Beyonce is no different to Mozart, in my view. They're still musicians. We're just taking something that has always been and just remoulding it to the modern day.
Fleetwood Mac were formed in 1967 and became one of the world's best-selling bands. Instrumental tracks like Albatross established their musicianship. Can you hear me calling out your name? And then vocal tracks cemented their position at the top of the pop charts. But the sophistication of the music lends itself well to an orchestral treatment.
This is music that is orchestral in scope. It is big, dramatic, storytelling music that fits well in a symphonic setting. It's not throwaway pop. There's integrity to their art, so it transfers beautifully onto this canvas, really.
And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again.
I can't describe the feeling that you get knowing that there are 20, 30, 40 musicians directly behind you. It's a feeling like no other, especially as a singer. Typically you sing, on your own, maybe with a band of 4 or 5, so to have quadruple that amount of people behind you, yeah, it's a feeling like no other. It's incredible.
Pink Floyd and Kate Bush have also been given the Paradox treatment. The orchestra will perform in Huddersfield Town Hall, Halifax Minster and Sunnybank Mills in June and July. If you like a big immersive sound, these are your people. Cathy Killick, BBC Look North.
I think that will be a brilliant night out. And so will this. The men's mental health charity Andy's Man Club have worked with a local dance theatre group to create a show aimed at exploring the issue. Now, the story was developed after workshops were held with men in Calderdale. Sunnyside has been released online for free today to mark Mental Health Awareness Week. And earlier on, I was joined by writer and co-director Anna and performer Zach. We're going to hear from them in just a moment, but first, have a quick look at this film.
We were men dancing. Men of circumstances, navigating this scrum of a life. Men who were stuck, caught up in these versions of us, stumbling on these potholes that our society has dug. We had to leave the knee-jerk reactions, the misread communications. Men can't hold, can't touch, can't friend without giving, without receiving the wrong intention.
Well, Anna, the writer of Sunnyside, and Zach, one of the actors that you saw in the film, is here. Anna, you watch that and you go, very arty, very creative, quite niche, and then you learn that actually some of those people in there are normal working men from Calderdale.
Yep, they are. Some of them just joined in through the call-outs that we did on social media. Some of them were like my dad, who I was like, please come and do the film. And some of them just got involved coming off the street, basically. But yeah, they're not trained performers. We've got like 3 professionals on the actual piece, but the rest of them, yeah, just normal local lads who are actually amazing dancers.
And Zach, you're one of the actors in the piece. Yeah. Tell me about some of the stories that have inspired this film and the play as well.
So the stories that have inspired the film and the play are all to do with men potentially struggling with things, their mental health taking a dip, and especially through the stage show of someone going through on a journey, trying to break out of that, finding a support network. And I think that comes through in the film as well. It's about us supporting each other and it being okay to talk about our mental health in a way that isn't frowned upon or isn't something to be ashamed of, and actually something that we should do and should be celebrated.
Yeah, absolutely. Anna, you're from Calderdale. This is all your work. Why did you want to tell the stories?
I mean, I grew up in Calderdale, in one of the most beautiful places, I think, in the UK, but it's known as like God's own county. But for me, it's really a place of two sides. I think we live in this place that is seems so free, and we've got the moors, but we've also got the valleys, and we've got people there who perhaps don't feel like they have opportunities available to them, like the futures that they kind of want aren't in reach for them.
Andy's Man Club, we've covered them lots over the years. They've really tried to fill that gap, haven't they, of men talking about the mental health. Where do they come into all this?
Yeah, so Andy's Man Club originated in Halifax, which is 5 minutes down the road from where our company originated. And we reached out to them and we just said, we've created a story about men's mental health. It's going on tour across the UK. It's made by young men in the valley. Would you like to partner on it with us? And they were like, yeah, anything that we can do to raise awareness. So they've advocated for the show, they've marketed the film, and they're also going to be available. Got 2 volunteers from Andy's Man Club coming to every venue that we go to on tour, and they can kind of offer support. If people need to leave the show at any point, they can go out, they can talk to somebody who's there who really knows what they're talking about to kind of help and support them.
Zach, trying to convince men with a stiff upper lip, Yorkshire grit, to come and see a show like this at the theatre is quite a hard task. How are you going to get those bums on seats?
The art sometimes, especially contemporary dance, we sometimes think it's for a certain type of person. This story is not. It's for everybody. If I'm going to say anything, you should just go and watch it and experience it and just have the time to reflect and think, OK, this is something that we should be talking about. See a bit of art, see a bit of dance and enjoy it. Get lost in it for an hour and a half and take yourself away from somewhere, but then be able to reflect on it after.
Thanks both for coming in. Best of luck with it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And the show is on in Leeds and in York this month. Final preparations are underway for RHS Chelsea, a display of horticulture's finest designers and growers. These stunning agapanthus, my favourite flower, are a regular sight at the show, cultivated on Yorkshire soil by Hoyland Plant Centre. For Steve Hickman and family, this will be their 18th year at Chelsea. Son of a pit worker, it is a big year, 40 years in business, 40 years of marriage, and hoping for another double gold.
Hello and welcome to the Royal Horticultural Society's Chelsea Flower Show.
The most prestigious flower show in the country, attracting royalty, celebrities and the most sought-after growers.
I'm Steve from Barnsley. We're RHS Master Growers. We're the only exhibits to get gold medal, double gold, 4 years on the trot.
250 miles away from the fanfare, tucked away in the former mining town of Hoyland, Steve is getting show ready.
I've got to look with a close eye because the judges will, so I'm just cleaning the leaves through.
Steve's been in business for 40 years, but growing is a passion that goes back to his dad and coal mining roots.
My first recollection doing geraniums and chrysanthemums as a 6-year-old in his greenhouse like all coal miners did. I was given some cactus to look after at the infant school on the 6-week summer holidays that we used to have back in the day, and they never got took back.
It sparked a lifelong interest in growing, and to date Steve's cultivated over 50 different varieties of plants, with Clivia and Agapanthus the big showstoppers.
But one what comes to memory is one called Hoyland Chelsea Blue, which is an evergreen one, which has huge dark blue flowers, but mine, Steve's Mega Blue, beats it because it's hardy. To see plants flower for the first time ever, and you know you're the only one in the world ever to see it, it gives you a buzz.
Steve, as a first-time exhibitor at Chelsea Flower Show, you're here in the great pavilion.
First ever Chelsea was very, very nerve-wracking. I don't think we slept well for a few weeks before we went.
Can you remember the feeling when you got a first Chelsea Gold?
Yes. We were, well, I can't say exactly what I said, but yeah, we were very delighted.
We're just deciding which ones will make nice vases and which ones won't.
Family and mining heritage runs through this nursery. One day son Colin will take over.
All my childhood memories involve either being here on the nursery or being at shows as a kid, sort of getting involved, so it's all I've ever known, really.
9 gold, Steve. Wow.
Yes, we're the only exhibitors to win double gold 4 years on the trot, and hopefully next week we'll make it 5 years on the trot.
And how does that feel?
Feels wonderful, to be honest.
Not bad for a Barnsley lad.
Not bad at all.
A Yorkshire mining lad in highbrow Chelsea. What do you think your dad would make of it?
Well, I wish my father and my mother were alive this day to see it. They'd be dead chuffed, if I can say that word. It's a bit surreal. When we first started, when it was just a field and nothing, up to Chelsea, he'd be speechless.
What a lovely fella, and we'll let you know. I think it's Tuesday he finds out what he's won, so fingers crossed for Steve. I'd love to go to Chelsea, miss my slot again.
Would you?
Oh yeah, have you ever been?
No, I've never been. No.
Oh, it's wonderful. It is a
Maybe you can
really
take
nice
me
day.
next
Have a
year.
brilliant time if you are going.
OK, well, very dry, isn't it, still? But we can see an end to perhaps this spell, the end of next week for the bank holiday weekend. But in the meantime, that's the River Wharf, and if you think that looks low, well, it is. In fact, parts of the upper wharf are at record low levels. That's an incredible shot there taken in Ilkley. And this is one of the reservoirs up the Washburn Valley, which is very clearly looking quite depleted. Reservoirs are around about 20% below where they should be at this time of the year. Let's have a look at those addresses then. If you want to send them to me, Instagram, and on the Weather Watcher website. So tomorrow, another dry day. There will be a lot of cloud coming in from the North Sea. So I think many areas will start cloudy. That cloud slowly breaking up and pushing back towards coastal areas. We can see what's happening, not a lot really, because high pressure is keeping these low pressure areas out of the way. As I say, there's just an indication later next week that this high pressure will disappear and we'll see Atlantic weather fronts finally coming in from the west, but it's a long way off and perhaps subject to change. Now, there's that band of cloud I talked about last night. It pushed away southwards. It's been replaced by clear skies, but there is more cloud out in the North Sea, which is heading our way. So after a clear evening, gradually we will see cloud increasing from the northeast, fairly tenuous in the west, thicker towards the coast, and we'll see temperatures down to 5 or 6 on average. So tomorrow's high water time, Scarborough 6:25, Bridlington at 6:39. So a fairly cloudy start in many areas. That cloud soon breaking up across western parts of our region. An indication, though, the further you go towards the coast, the more unlikely it is that that cloud will break up. So a cool and breezy day in coastal areas. The best temperatures across West and South Yorkshire and the Yorkshire Dales. Friday and the weekend looking very nice. Variable cloud, but lots of sunshine as well. That's the forecast.
We're told to enjoy it while it lasts because there might be a turn for bank holiday.
That's correct.
But we're not there yet.
We're not.
That is it from us. Abby Julia with your late news. Bye-bye for now.
That was a good song.